What is good? What is good? What is good, everyone? This is your girl, Nala-Ife, and also coming in as Nala the Neptunian. Just in case you are new, I also go by Sheba, the specialist, and you can also find me as far as the hashtag segment, the great. Okay. Now, this is being recorded right now on Nala-Ife Talks Live, unscripted and off the chain. This is October the 17th, 2024, and it is currently 2:49 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Okay. All right, y'all. That is a lot. Okay. So I have a couple of things before I get into my messages. Okay. Listen, we are going through a rebirth process, and right now, the baby is being conceived. All right. And so, with that said, there is a lot of virile masculine energy, and it's necessary. It is necessary for conception. It is necessary. Now, before I get into this read, do not shoot the messenger. Do not get pissed off with me. I have my own opinions. I have my own um insights and my own outlook, okay, about what is necessary, but it doesn't mean that I know everything. So when I do this reading is I'm surrendering myself to spirit, and even if that means that I am revealing things on my end about my own unknown or known biases and prejudices, then it is what it is. Okay. This won't be a long session. I've said that in the past, and I'm working on keeping that promise because it's better for me to do various small live streams or recordings, and as I improve my equipment and get back into the swing of things in a more permanent, stable environment, and get back to streaming on my computer or my desktop or my laptop or both in a way, and actually set up my audio and video, um, because it's going to be needed over the next 4 years. It's going to be needed. Really, the next 10 years, okay? It's going to be needed. Okay. Now, I'm going to say this again, don't shoot the messenger. There were certain things that a lot of spiritual people, not just myself, some amazing readers, but it's definitely under an Aries signature, and Aries would know North Node is there. The point of destiny is there. So if they're an Aries reader, a lot of times, if they're able to remove their own bias, even if they don't like what they're seeing, they're probably on point, especially whether they're Aries. I'm going to say this, even though I believe that there are charlatans and people who have not tapped into their own gifts, psychic abilities are not just limited to one person. It's a muscle. And there are some of us, just like there are trapeze artists, there are athletes, there are Olympic gold medalists that train and train and train. So their performance within the human body is something that we all have the ability to unlock. Maybe not at the best level, but we have the ability to get there. But whether or not we are willing to utilize that muscle is another thing. Okay. So I'm saying all of that to say this. I believe the only difference between a charlatan is that they have not, as it relates to being a psychic and a tarot reader or medium, is that they've not yet experienced the blowback or the weight of the responsibility of their guidance. Okay. They've not, or they're convinced that they won't because of a target. Okay. And so I think going forward, the way I do readings, I'm not out here trying to save nobody, because sometimes doing that, you actually shortcut the breakthrough. unless there is a demonstrated need and that person who you're speaking to actually demonstrates and with respect to pour back into you that they want that information. And that's how it should be anyway. But it's so weird because in our society, they like to say, well, you're an elder, you're an OG, you should be giving advice. Well, whoa, 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 whoa. You should be able to receive the advice. If you're not able to receive, then it's pointless for me to use my elderly energy to exert myself where it won't do any good. If anything, it may even do worse. So there's that. Okay. And I hope that, and what I'm saying right here for who I'm going to be delivering this message to, I hope that you understand this. If you have strong fixed placements, listen, according to Western astrology, I have a fixed Taurosian chart. Okay. Despite only having one placement there, it is what that placement exemplifies or exalts and is positioned in my chart. It's funny how one placement can dominate your whole chart depending on the other alignments and houses and planetary bodies and their alignments to said placement. Okay. Your alignments in astrology means damn near more than a planetary position. Like the planet, not the planetary position, where the planets or the houses are placed. The alignments to said planet, especially if there are several alignments of contrast and of favorable and unfavorable position. Man, listen, that and the angles, your first, fourth, seventh, and 10th house, along with the angles to certain planetary bodies, means damn. Listen, there is astrology that can give you a accurate chart on that and even precede it. Okay, I'm gonna have to let y'all go to voicemail. Okay, so let me get into this. I'm just babbling at this point, y'all. Let me get the fuck into what I'm trying to say. That's that Gemini rising. Okay, first house is a part of my personality. It's there. Okay, even though we are progressed 20, we're at the end of Cancer. Okay, and in a couple of years it'll be progressed Leo rising. So anyway, which that means I'm really gonna be talking my ass off. But child, okay. So anyway, let's just get into this. Okay, you may not want to hear this, and I'm only going based on what I've read, and not only what I've read, what I've had confirmed through other people also doing their readings. Okay, other people doing their readings have confirmed this before I even came online to give my 2 cents as to what I received. Okay, so let's talk about this. In other words, I'm literally seeing the sign of the times right now as I'm talking to you guys. I know I'm holding this up. I am not trying to be annoying or obnoxious, but I'm literally seeing what looks like to be someone who doesn't have anywhere to go and unseemingly looks like they are without assistance actually change their behavior once their relief comes in with a vehicle and there's an exchange of materials. Like it looks like a homeless person. I'm in Denver. Looks like, we have a homeless person problem. And that's more on the government and so many other things. But you wouldn't assume that this is just an aimless individual. And baby, they are exchanging work tools. Do you hear me? So what on the surface looks one way, you would assume is one thing, and it's not that thing. It's an organized effort. Incredible. Who you assume is helpless is actually more efficient and probably more efficient than those who have an abundance of resources. Because they lack in resources, they have to be a lot more creative with what they do have, which makes them far more efficient. Meaning that if you were to level the playing field and these individuals, with what they've had to weather, came into the allocation of resources, they would better be able to manage said resources than those who are abundant in the resources and don't and take it for granted. This is so interesting, watching this happen as I'm doing this reading. I'm literally blown the fuck away. Holy shit. Like a little depot. Anyway, God bless them. Okay. Anyhow, so I'm going to say this here. That's something that's going to be relevant to this reading and relevant to the next 4 years. Look beyond what I said, look beyond the positions of the people like I did, and look at the thing that I'm saying. You assume that these people, a person is helpless, aimless, and don't have resources. And I just witnessed the exchange of resources with little to no resources. An effective exchange of resources. Intelligent. I'm just leaving it at the word of resources. Okay. So, okay. So I'm going to say this here. A lot of people who are, and I'm not getting into the person, but this is not a I told you so, but it's more or less, let me explain why I said what I said. To cement the beginning of this session, the cards that I'm reading, it's not based on the astrology. There's a lot of astrologers and they are proficient in what they do. They have legitimate evidence. But when I look at the cards, and I've been reading this election, there was a bit of a change of wind when I saw Kamala in the debate. But then there was a move that Donald Trump made, and that was to deny any more debates. Okay. And on top of that, the debate results of Mike, I was going to say Mike Pence, child, of the vice presidents, and then, of course, the town halls and the conversations that Kamala has been having. And if you remember on this channel, I stressed it. I said, if you give into the favor, and if she believes that she is just naturally going to get certain votes and behaves as such, and if the people who are supporting Kamala Harris are in their fixed Leo, fixed Scorpio, fixed Aquarius, fixed Taurus energy, and you don't see the mutability and the need to open up the way in which you move. And maybe this is going to be good for you, not because of you being a loser, but because of what happens after 2029. So maybe this is the foundation that needs to be set up. But if you operate as if it's in the bag, it's not going to be in the bag. And I'm going to tell you right now, after several readings, it looks like Trump, it's not a situation where Trump is elected and it's a false election and it goes to Kamala Harris and Kamala gets, sworn in. No, the powers that be are behind Trump. Even the powers that be, as it relates to the conflicts in Gaza, are behind Trump because Trump represents a pivot that is not afforded to the Kamala Harris office and regime. Okay? Trump and his team have the elements and they represent a pivoting point. Okay? So I could be wrong. Other readers can be wrong. Because I'm going to tell you hands down, other readers read this before I even came to even fuss on my community page about it. So this is nothing new. Astrologers been saying this for a long time. Even there's been astrologers who have, you know, said several things about if Kamala has this placement in Vedic, she'll be the winner or not. If Trump has this placement in Vedic, he'll be the winner or not. Okay. You know, listen, these things have been talked about amongst the astrological community and the tarot community, spiritual community, and mediumship. I've even went off and said, listen, I even was like, listen, I feel like based on what's going on with the divine, with the feminine portion of our world and the wake up call that needs to happen, handing off the Thanos glove. I think I said it like 2 months ago on a rant. And you know something? Because of what I channel and my stars, that's exactly what needs to happen. And this is where my bias and my prejudice may come in. There's a need to take some things seriously that women, or the population of women and peoples who represent women and vulnerable human beings, and those who are of alternative lifestyles and associations, or what their pronouns are. There's a seriousness that needs to be taken. And I will give credit to the men and trans women of the LGBTQ community, specifically the men, because they were in their masculine energy, in regards to their sexual orientation, fully aware of how temperamental this would be. Even before women came online, there has been conversation about the way that women have suppressed their own intelligence. And I literally just posted today, a couple of hours ago, that biologically, okay, and no, that's not connected to the person I just seen, but I'll get into it. I just posted, I said, biologically, the woman seeks for material security in order to reproduce, and the masculine seeks to provide something in order to reproduce, to have access to reproduce. This is not about sexual orientation. This is about function of the universe at the end of the day. And in that expression, neither one dominated the other. Because this is I gotta get to my point so I can get to this fucking reading. But the point of the matter is that the over dominance of the one over one group creates the perversion and the adversion to balance, because we're taking away the balance. Okay. All right. Some people say they're for that. They understand it, but their behaviors, their talking points, and how they do and what they do behind the scenes and in front of the scenes show that they are not even in tune with their own truth. So they can't be. So what they're saying, for those who are in the know, cannot be trusted. For those of us who have access to digital footprints, you're saying one thing, but your actions outside of the public are saying something different. So I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying to be restrictive or Saturnian. But based on that information, it is not safe for me to take your word as bond, because you can't even trust your word, because you are not even in control and your actions say as much. And I can even admit to when that's true for me. So if I understand when that's true for me, They say to know thyself is to know the world. To master thyself is to master everything outside. So if someone is able to trigger you beyond or understand you beyond your understanding, then you've not mastered. And that's okay. That's an opportunity. And I think that women, you are the ones I'm speaking to. You've not mastered yourself, which has led to an overabundance of lack of mastery of the masculine. The masculine dominates, the patriarchy dominates, but then that leads them to take for granted their position and to almost make themselves retarded in that position and regress almost like a caveman, because there's no need to be sharp, no need to take serious. There's no need to be sacred in their position, to be protective, to provide housing. Okay? If we are under the patriarchy and there are such things as child trafficking, prostitution of both men and women, drug uses, and poverty on a planet that is plentiful for everyone to live here, that means there's an imbalance. We look to nature. We look to as above, so below. So we look to what we deem to be below us: animal life, insect life, plant life, which I don't believe is below us. But if we look to those things, then if you see an imbalance there, there's an imbalance here. But again, the feather that we are on as both men and women, because when I'm talking about divine feminine, I'm talking to men too. When I'm talking about divine masculine, I'm talking to women too. The feather that we are on, all of us are patriarchal, whether you are man or woman. And let me bring this home. A lot of men now speak to, and even the queen maker, speak to women being dick hungry. But the queen maker is imperfect in her observations purposely. She's purposely deceptive. Purposely deceptive. Because she has an agenda. We all do. And in this point, I'm able to demonstrate she's purposely deceptive. Because with all of her knowledge base and with her understanding of human psychology, sociology, and the politics of a thing, and how that can change behaviors, not over just a few a few decades, but a few hundred to a couple of thousand of years. And she can understand that when she's speaking to men. She's able to brilliantly demonstrate that when she's speaking to the history of men and the history of philosophy, and men taking philosophy to explain the nature of God imperfectly. So she's able to perfectly explain that, but she tends to deviate because it would not support her position when she speaks about the nature of women, which I believe her latest campaign is that women are dick hungry. She can speak about what happens to women and children and men when they experience trauma. She's spoken to about Stockholm syndrome. She's spoken about just about every syndrome when it comes to the matrix of slave and master, victim and abuser. She can speak to all of these matrices, but she conveniently leaves out a chunk of information when she's talking about women being dick hungry and unintelligent. It used to be a crime, just like it was a crime for blacks to study and have education. It used to be legal for women to have education. It was through sewing circles for white or European American women to read. Women weren't allowed to go to plays or be in plays, to be actors or actresses until the turn of the century. So that meant that men played the positions and roles of women in plays. It wasn't until the most recent 150, 200 years that women were cast in roles of women. And the same thing is true. You can see as above, so below. You can see that even with black people. whites would put on black face to play the roles of black people. It was terrible before black people were actually brought in to play their own roles. So if we see that here, we can understand the similarity between that. Men played women's roles in a coquettish way, while women were denied that job of being an actress. Okay? I'm only bringing this out because, with that said, that means that the women inherently coming in are going to follow a certain program. And that program is dictated by those who were in control of its foundation for which woman is coming in to participate. Meaning that it's not until she develops equity that she's going to have a say. It's not until you become a stakeholder or someone who can affect the money and the politics and the distribution of power. It's not until then that you're going to be able to be effective in any type of change. Okay? Okay. I just wanted to establish that. And why that's important is we as humans have a brilliant way in which we cope. We tend to cope with things by accepting the truth of the environment, the status of the environment, in order to seek a level of pleasure, which then translates to normalcy in our life. Meaning that women naturally, because of not having access to resources, would be extremely selective about who they slept with. Because you couldn't work. You weren't allowed to work in the same capacity. The same thing is true for black men. Black men, and that's why when these men on these panels get up here talking, I'm like, baby, what Wall Street were you working on? What doctor's office, what hospital were you working for if it wasn't a Negro hospital or a Negro doctor's office, a Negro lawyer's office that only dealt with the Negroes? Were you working for? The greater society, you weren't in, it wasn't the way it is now. There was an effort that didn't allow you to have the same equity as your white male counterparts. So when you talk about women being in their femininity, and I think I even heard a brother the other day imperfectly talk about, I just want y'all to sit down the way y'all used to. And I'm looking like, the way we used to? There was the huge majority of Black communities were not stay-at-home mothers. They had to have two incomes because the man didn't have the access to work that would support him being the sole provider of not just one or two children. We're talking about people back in the day would have 4, 5, and 6 children, not by different fathers. And if they did, the men would come in and support another man's child and then have additional children. But that didn't, there wasn't any stay at home situation. Black women, for the majority, have worked and worked alongside Black men for the entirety of the modern world or our modern concept of America. So this construct of Black women are no longer feminine because they have money now. Listen, there was never a time that she wasn't working, but in positions that were not suitable for white women, or women, if they were Hispanic, they were white Hispanic, that were not suitable for them unless they were really poor. And society treats, unfortunately, poor white trash because of the fact that you're a part of the dominant society worse than they treat people of different ethnicity. They do. Even white people, especially, more than anyone, treats those who are poor white trash or considered to be poor. I hate that term, but considered to be poor white trash worse than they treat anyone because of the fact that you have access to the dominant society. even if it's by representation, and representation matters, okay? Either way it goes, if a woman were to have several children because there wasn't no birth control, it would not be conducive to get with a man that's lazy, a man that is effeminate, a man who wasn't able to go to work. That didn't make sense because you're going to have sex with your husband. You're going to get pregnant. Okay? It wouldn't make sense to be with someone who could not carry their weight. It wasn't conducive to survival. So now that women have the ability to provide for themselves, again, this is a blueprint and a foundation that has been created and built by men. Even women who are successful in Fortune 500 companies and become CEOs, they operate the way the men do. It's not until recently that women have been learning to embrace femininity in high-powered positions. And if we want to look at the election, let's be for real. Kamala's femininity is scrutinized by the same men who say they want feminine women. Her femininity and what appears to be feminine energy is scrutinized. And listen, all of this all will play out perfectly. But we have to get out of our feelings right now because there's a precedent that's being set and it needs to be set in order for change to happen. Okay? So recently, women who learned that they didn't have value outside of being a wife and mother have the access to, and who were not always treated with love. It was out of necessity. Okay? Because people don't do shit for no reason. And not every man treated their woman wrong. I come from a family which people were married, and I've seen men treat women well, and I've seen men treat women not well. Within that construct of marriage. So I think I have a really good, and listen, I'm not throwing no shade, but for those in the peanut gallery, if we want to be technical, I'm not considered to be a bastard. Me and my brother are legitimate. My mother was married and is married. I carry the last name of my father by decree of their marriage. And that's no shade to people who don't have that, because it's not always good. It don't matter. If somebody is not going to be able to show up and hold space, they're not going to be able to show up in that way and hold space. It doesn't matter what's on the paper. But that also equals to the fallout that's going on now. So now that women have this access, we have this money, we have this wealth that the men are starting to want to repeal. But hold on, hold your horses. And you're going to hold your horses over the next 4 years. I promise you, you're going to hold your goddamn horses. Oh my God. Okay. You're going to probably need a horse and a motherfucking carriage, bitch. And we're going to get into this read. Okay. So when you have a set of values that are established by those who are in the dominant society, we're going to use whites as the dominant society, and we're going to use men as the dominant society. Men and women don't seem to have a problem when someone says you're acting white, because that shows a level of success, because we associate success by far and large across the world, not just us. Every ethnicity does with what it means with whiteness. Well, when in terms of men and women, the dominant society, no matter if there are more women born, technically there are more poor people born. And if you really do the numbers, there are more people of color born to the world than there are whites. And there are more women that are born to the world than there are men. But if we talk about the dominant society being masculine and us assimilating with the dominant society, the behavior that you see women in now within the confines of this new world in which one is able to operate within financial freedom, their behaviors, and man, these folks right here, boy, they got a one-stop shop. And if you had to just judge these people off of what they look like, you wouldn't have caught the tea. Baby, the tea is caught. And I am taking notes, not on no snitch shit, but on some survival shit. Hello? Smart as fuck. You hear me? Anyway, if you really look at the real situation, what you see are women in these roles behaving like the men who created the society for them to inherit, and in order to be successful in those roles, mimic. So then you have the competition. Men are competitive with one another, but they are also the most loyal to their groups. And you see, even today, the turncoat nature of certain individuals in society in terms of reaching back for other men of other races, unless those men of those other races have established themselves to be equal in the acquisition of wealth. Pretty much Asian men, specifically Chinese, Vietnamese, and Korean men, are very much anchored and considered to be white in their effectiveness in society, especially when you look at their earnings. They're out earning white men even in America. And you can see that in the cultures that are being built up across the ocean. But it still was predicated upon the behavior and the mimicking of those who ruled the dominant society. No one's saying, oh, you're acting white. It's like it is effective. And by acting this way, I've been able to accumulate myself and my culture and my ethnic group market share, because it apparently worked for them. It should work for me, despite the fact that this system was built upon racism and classism, which technically should keep me out of it. But me imploring a bit of naivete and a bit of being non-threatening is what gave me access to then build up my resources. This is what women haven't understood in their positioning. Women have understood sex and their role in sex and the acquisition of money. You're acting like you're not, like it's always been this way. And you've not taken, because of the fact that you're in this role and femininity is shamed, you've lost your power as a feminine to be non-confrontational, myself included. And in that non-confrontational energy, being able to ascertain market share. Now, getting back to the Queen Maker's point about women needing this, they needed to thrive. Women are mimicking men and actually have regressed because of a level of comfortability. Just the same way that Black people became comfortable after the 1970s and the depression coming from the killing of certain political figures and the destruction of various wealthy Black communities, the toppling of those, became comfortable with the crumbs. Women have become comfortable with the crumbs. And in that, acting even more regressed than those whom you are trying to join up with, meaning acting against your nature. Black people, especially in the modern world, act against their cultural nature, something that no one else does. No one else goes outside of their cultural respects everyone. I mean, St. Patty's Day. No one's telling the Irish not to celebrate St. Patty's Day. No one's talking shit to the Mexicans about Cinco de Mayo. No one's talking shit to the Native Americans about the newly enacted Indigenous People Day and having that pride in where they are. But then you have Black people that go and say and laugh at Black History Month and do not support. That's a self-hate, no matter if you are new generation to America or you've been you're American descendant of quote unquote slavery. That phenomenon is not shared anywhere on any grand scale. So no people of other cultures cannot even recognize sameness in you because there is a pride that they have in where they come from, what they look like. There's even a preference, and it's only used for political gain to marry a white woman. It's a political, I don't give a fuck what you say. It is a political, and generally it's not a white woman that is not of value and wealth or education. Generally, she's impressive on her own and comes from a decent family, or it appears on surface it is. It's not just somebody because I hate myself and I want to wash out my ethnic. No, if I'm going to bring this person into my Hindu family, into my Chinese family, male or female, because the Chinese women would go after the men with money. They weren't going for white men who were poorer than Chinese men. It was someone who was impressive financially. Okay? It was a plus. And the men are the same way. They're not just picking up any old thing. It's something impressive to bring to their lineage because they want to have more. But it's essentially, by and far and large, you still see, when you see Hindu people, when you see or Indian people, when you see Asian people, when you see Asian people, Chinese, Japanese, even Pacific Islanders, when you see people of other races, Hispanic people, when you see them depicted in as man and woman, you see them with their person that looks like them. But widespread, when you see Black men in partnership, it's always with a white woman, not these other women, and not the woman that comes from their culture. That is, you don't think that that's something's strange about that? That's a level of programming. And it's a programming that lends itself to a false sense of comfortability. The same way that we were given this hood superstar image of blaxploitation movies in the 70s. Not because we're victim, it's not because someone's victimizing us because they hate us. No, it's because the victimization of us and our ignorance is profitable. So people are not doing it just because they hate you. People are survival. So people do it because it is profitable. It's the same reason why white artists come over and have a hip hop R&B moment and they blow up on the scene amongst everyone within their culture and our culture because it's profitable to use you, period. And women, it's the same thing with you. It is profitable to use you, to give you a false sense of security. That false sense of security has you out here butt ball naked at brunch, drunk. Well, guess what? Now, that image of you, that image of the Meg Thee Stallion, that image with Kamala Harris, that image of our brothers and sisters who are LGBTQ, but busting it wide open for a couple real ones, that image and the lack of readiness of Kamala Harris and maybe even this false sense of security is costing her the election, even with the powers that be, because it comes across as incompetence. The behavior that the Queen Maker did do, I'm glad that she did. I'm glad that she was deceptive. because she is precisely showing you politically how to use a person's so-called freedoms against them to paint a narrative. Just because someone's being deceptive doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad thing. And then on top of that, if she's calling out a behavior over the next 4 years, you're going to want to tighten the fuck up, because now you precisely see how those epithets, especially Black women, are being used against you, and you being categorized aside from the fact that you are just like other women. Listen, the ratchet music is worldwide. That means all women who got a vagina or don't, all women are connected to the music, the ratchet music. All women feel it, whether they admit to it or not, whether they're safe to admit to it or not. Otherwise, it wouldn't have the replay value that it has. Okay? Cardi B is still a very wealthy woman and has not put out an album. Let's really get into it. So there's power in the pussy, but it's only powerful for those who are able to command it. And currently, women do not have command over their pussy. I know you may be thinking, oh, if she doesn't get in, our rights are being threatened. But bitch, why is you going in for that many abortions anyway? That means you have a lack of command over your pussy. You need the government to give you a band-aid. And I am pro-choice. But in the way that we demonstrate it, it makes us look like children. When we get on the internet, when we get on music videos, we sound like children that cannot be responsible for themselves. So here comes the wake-up moment. The truth be told is that if you didn't have birth control, you didn't have welfare, Sexy Red maybe read the motherfucking astrophysicist. Let's say you didn't have that, but women had the ability to go to college and get degrees and earn money alongside men. But you didn't have birth control. You didn't have welfare. You're not gonna be busting, you're not gonna be shaking no pussy nowhere. Because I promise you, the weight of the world would have you move differently. And you would have some examples, very few, but some, and their outcomes would be so terrible that it would scare you into a certain direction. That libido that you believe that you have, let's talk about the female libido. It's a stress response. It's a stress response of you not being in your feminine. Sex becomes a way for you to have oxytocin release. Women are not having as many children. I don't give a fuck what the queen makers say. We've already demonstrated that she can be purposely deceptive. The oxytocin from being actually happy is far removed, and now you're not forced to be in marriages. So now, if it's not, women are on the rise for alcoholism, for street drug use, which there has always been, especially in terms of prostitution, but women wouldn't have access to necessarily certain pharmacology because they were wives, right? But you're leading in drug use and alcohol use and abuse of sex and having children while carrying these same issues. So if you don't think that absolutely has something to do with what's affecting Kamala's bid for the presidency and the powers that be, you got another story. Because what the powers that be see, and when I talk about the powers that be, y'all think it's a group of people. Yeah, there's a group of people that represent it, but we're talking about spiritually. For we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but people like spirits and principalities that reside in high places. Those are angels that they're talking about. Those are gods and goddesses. Those are the first people with agendas. Okay. And they're not on the same accord. Okay. So understand that if the divine feminine is to come in, I've been screaming at this, I've been saying. If the divine feminine is going to come in, she can't come in the way with the karmic feminine. We got all of it in us, but she can't come way by the de-evolved feminine. So this means that over the next 4 years, if not the next 8 or 9 years, that you will, because you're not going to want to go back to the way it was. You'd rather die. And people say, I'm not going to be a handmaiden still. Bitch, you are the descendant of somebody who was a handmaiden still. The handmaiden still just scared white women. Black women and Irish indentured servants have already been handmaidens. Hello? Hush. But what this will, but will someone attempt to make you that way? Absolutely. So what we're about to face is what will change the dynamic and the way that women operate. Women are going to lose positions in power over the next 4 years. It's going to be far more difficult for women to be elected in smaller elections. The men are already showing you. Listen, if you watch Anton James, the way he's acting reserved because he doesn't want to scare the women to act to become active. But if you watch, the men know what they are on one accord. Unfortunately, Black men don't read the room very well and don't realize that they do not have enough market share to be valuable to the dominant society. And in actuality, if they are a burden that is even admitted to by Black men to society, they're going to be a burden to the majority male driven and ruled society. And Black men lead with sex, even though other men are far more sexually deviant, and we see that in story after story because of them having absolute power. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. But Black men, just like Black women, are too comfortable. And because you have lack of access to other pleasures such as wealth, abundance of wealth, abundance of education, abundance of good health, sex and drugs and partying becomes the highlight because this is where you can relax because everything's hard outside of that reality. Sex, drugs, and partying leads to the hardship that we continuously find ourselves in. But I'm not going to sit here and preach on that because I like me a good sex and drug and rock and roll myself. Okay? Okay. So understand this. I'm not speaking against Trump calling him racist. I'm talking about human nature at this point. And human nature does not follow that which is ineffective. Human nature is tasked with associating itself with that which ensures its survival by the example that it has left beforehand. Okay? You can't talk about something new. What is your track record? Because that's going to be a better indicator about what you're going to do in the future. Because if you forget the past, you're likely to repeat it. So what you've done in the past, myself included, you got to actively fight against your past when it's checkered in order to create a new future. And that means being super self-aware. And super self-awareness, actually, when you learn to command it, gives you confidence. Because you know your strengths, but you know your weaknesses, which become strength. It's those who are out here acting like they ain't got no weakness or not working on their weaknesses that are not strong at all. And they are the weak ones are the most dangerous because they're more positioned to sell you the fuck out, which is Black people, crab in a bucket mentality. This is why we sell each other out, and we're we're not cohesive. Okay, what is about to come is not just affecting Black women. It's going to affect women. I don't give a fuck what color you are, in such a way that about time the next 2029 gets here, or 2034 gets here, or 2033 gets here, you're going to get your shit together. You're going to have your shit on lock, and you're going to be willing to die for it in order to make it change. You're going to be forced to be more strategic and to be more intellectual the way that biologically you were designed to be. The patriarchal system, the way that men are overly sexualized, is not biologically normal. You may say, well, the animals do this. The animals, the plants, all deviate alongside humans. But when we look at the societies, whether it's the societies of plant life, bug life, and animal life, that are the most nurturing, when we look at those things, okay, we see a balance in how they operate amongst the sexes. We do not see an overburdening. And where, if the male is dominant, the slack in the dominance is kind of carried over with the fact that the women take up this majority in numbers. It's something that creates balance. There's not equal number dominance against equal number passivity. Women are newly, over the last 30 years, hooked up on that dick juice. And now are even telling you they Rose gonna do it for them. Because it's become a means to where women are even in relationships the way men are, to where they don't even bond to one man. It's just the sexual gratification, because we are mimicking the foundation that was set as it relates to relating to the opposite sex or even the same sex, because women really are not empowered. A woman in power is powered by her divine feminine energy, not what she thinks it is. The natural biological significance that is demonstrated and has been demonstrated over aeons. And then when we become acquainted with that, then and only then can we evolve as a society, male or female. The reason we are de-evolving is the over far-reaching, over-sexualized, dominant, patriarchal society. Women are sexual for relief via money and things and stress, coupled with the fact that she can have an abortion. So it makes it, men are already addicted to sex. It's societally accepted for men to be addicted to sex, no matter what their sexual orientation is. But everyone's up in arms about women because that actually isn't biologically sound. And it's a newly developed phenomenon amongst women. Not that women are not sexual beings. People hear what I'm saying and they go straight to nonhood. Bitch, shut your dense ass up. That's not supposed to be done. Women are extremely sensual beings. We are sex. But what makes sex good? The fact that it's not something you can have access to easily. It makes it more sacred. because one has to be of a certain caliber to engage. That's something women control. And at one point, women even controlled access to marriage, because you wouldn't go for a peasant or a man if you were a prostitute that didn't have money. And if he wanted to have you and take you out of that, he had to marry you. Otherwise, it wasn't profitable to be with him. Which meant he had to have a constant incoming stream of shilling. So women, us trying to be men and then getting mad that men don't recognize you the same way, versus getting jealous of other women who are in their divine feminine, who are not competing. They might even be a little bit feminist, but you would never know because they're balanced. They understand the art of the deal. And they're not anti-woman. They don't go and compete with women. They recognize more women who have the virtue actually makes it so that her virtue is not at a discount or expected to be lowered because other women uphold the same value, ensuring that we have access to those things. Okay? I'm just gonna give it to you raw. I'm gonna give it to you the way this is. I try to break things down. I'm long-winded as hell. But over the next 4 to 8 years or 9 years, since we're in 2024 right now, there's going to be infighting amongst the men. India is going to start taking more control. And within that society, the women within that Indian society are going to head and lead the divine feminine because of what they are overcoming, the hardships. The next group of women before American women radicalize and go for their freedoms while maintaining and protecting divine feminine energy are going to be Muslim women. Yeah, you thought I was saying people are going to have burqas on and covering up. No, it's going to be because people are going to want to look and act like the women who are running the show. Hindu women, Bengali women, Middle Eastern women, because those women are going to be the ones who show you with love, not with competition. You don't see Hindu women for the most part. I'm not talking about the ones who are white facing on the what is that called? That thing that they scale if you're divine or not based on your skin hue. I'm talking about dark-skinned Hindu women. At least the ones I've run into have been very sweet, loving, and fair with me. When you see that these women create these inroads, they're going to be working with women from nations in Africa. And you're going to see those women that are normally Muslim women, Hindu women, lead when it comes to women's rights, when it comes to medicine for women, when it comes to healthcare and treatment of women's issues. They go further than goddamn birth control. They go actually into more IVR. They go actually into menopause. That means that we value women past their fertility. Unlike these idiots I heard talking on the 3 initiates the other day. Fuck them niggas. Well, she ain't valuable because of that. That shit is going away. It's going to hype up and be fucked up for the next 4 to 8 years. But luckily, all of us with that energy that are in that mindset are going to die out. Praise God. And the women of newer generation, the ones that are babies now, won't have to live in a world where her value is based on her fertility, but based on what God gave her to present to the world. That was so disgusting to see those 3 black men call themselves 3 initiates after the Kabbalion. And they are descendants of women who have 51% of their mothers who have the mitochondrial Eve gene, they should be thinking as gods and they talking as the shit on the bottom of a boot of a fucking peasant. It was fucking disgusting. I would claim my Vedic positions too, because I wouldn't want anybody to know I was a fucking Virgo. Talking like a fucking idiot. Disgusting. And talking about fat women, he got a fat back. Nigga, fat backs can't put a dick nowhere. The fuck? I had to get ignorant to get on that level. I'm sorry. Let's come back up. Woo, bitch. That shit. I guess when I know you should do better and you're not, and you might be falsely leading black men to continue that stupidity, bitch, it just turns my goddamn gears. And I want to blow their goddamn brains out. Like, get the fuck off the earth. Not you. But that energy that you're in. At least I got to say it that way. Because at the time, it was very much you. But I had to remember, we fight not against flesh, but against spirits. Okay? Anyway, and respectfully, I'm sure people felt that way about me. But I'm just letting you know. It's time to brace it, get the fuck ready, because it's coming. And I can't say I'm sorry. A lot of us tried to warn our sisters about what was going on, and you didn't want to listen to us. And that's another thing. Women don't respect other women. Well, when your ass now, the way these men are acting, when you got to rely on other women because the motherfuckers are going upside your head and upside the ass of your children. They going inside. Oh, you think they're child trafficking, baby? Child trafficking finna blow the fuck up. They gonna child traffic in your face. Oh, they finna diddy in your face, bitch. Literally. Okay. Oh man. You think your human rights violations about to go the fuck up. And by the end of it, you're gonna be ready. You're gonna be ready. Okay? So just get ready. The men are going to increase poverty to such a way that they're going to eliminate themselves from wealth. And this is including white men in America. The men who will have the dominant in society will be dominant within their countries and within their ownership of America. So we are about to be foreign owned. It was going to happen whether Kamala was in office or not. But maybe it would have been tipped differently. But this is what's needed. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not. Because women need to learn to rely on themselves, to the Queen Maker's point, to respect one another. And when you are presented with a woman or elder women who know better, to hold a level of respect for those who are knowledgeable so that you're able to inherit that position and lead the future. Because the future, younger people actually lead us. We need the youth. But in order for the youth to be effective, they need the elder. Otherwise, you're running on pure stupidity. Okay? So the women who are competing with one another. Some of you don't, you think, some of you believe that you'll be able to go back to the patriarchal chosen one. They finna, okay. The men are starting to get mad at beautiful women. So the more attractive you are, and the more you deny certain men, the more danger you're in, bitch. And this is not because Trump is inherently evil, but it's what Trump brings with him. It's not his team. It is the psychology. But we have to see the true presentation of the toxic the toxic masculine and the toxic feminine in order for the divine masculine and divine feminine to take over, because we're out of control. Okay? So I just wanted to drop these gems. I'm going to do a reading and I'm going to pull this up. What is the energy around the next 4 years? Spirit, what is the energy for the collective around the next 4 years? I'm going to work on being long-winded, and I'm going to actually start, instead of being off the script, off the chain, I'm going to start being on the chain a little bit. We got the Eight of Pentacles, a lot of work. Working class people. What about the working class people with the Eight of Pentacles? That's also Virgo energy. What about the working class people? We have the Two of Pentacles. There's going to be a lot of changes with the working class. There may even, on this particular card, there's a shift. So there may be some issues with countries and us, the materials that we use or we were used to getting from other countries, us having access to it. So the ports are going to become a major thing. If it's not through laws and increased taxes and actually in wars, it's going to be about supplies and having access to resources that are coming from other countries, meaning that we're going to try to I don't know what they're going to do because the young people are lazy as hell. So I don't know who they're going to give manufacturing jobs to. You're going to have to get foreigners to do those jobs. But the eight of Pentacles with the Two of Pentacles, this shows a lot of hard work in order to maintain, and it could be very well the middle class. I'm getting the middle class because Virgo rests damn near in the middle of the zodiac wheel. Okay, and is right before the balance comes. Okay, and we have Capricorn here, and that's Capricorn deals with the market. It deals with the market as far as the foundation of the market. It deals with agriculture. Okay, so we may have to ship in things that we normally could grow. I'm also getting to here that there's going to be a lot of warfare via the ocean. A lot of warfare in the ocean are coming. Okay, there may even be some kind of port invasion, kind of giving us Pearl Harbor a little bit. We got the Seven of Swords, yeah. A lot of deception, uh, and this is a big circus tent. A lot of deception, a lot of stealing. Okay, so this leads us to believe there is going to be a level of imbalance financially, causing a lot of restriction of resources. We're causing people to want to steal resources and on a higher level go to war about the resources. We have the Queen of Wands, okay? Now, the Queen of Wands could be, the women are going to be a lot more masculine. We're going to be a lot more in shape. I mean, respectfully, if we were talking about right now, we would all say, oh, that's a sexy bitch. But she's not in shape to be sexy. If she is sexy, it's because she's playing spy game. It's kind of like a Bond girl. But women are, in order to acquire power, are going to have to be a lot more in their masculine energy. Women are also going to be more into magic than anything. You're going to find a lot more women are going to take hermetics serious. We may even see the return of the Isis temples, the Sekhmet temples. I should have said Sekhmet first. The Sekhmet temples, the lioness of Judah energy. Okay, especially with Pluto opposite Leo for those who have Leo placement. Okay. The woman is having to develop a fighting spirit. And since we're being forced to get back into our divine magic, this means that you have authority in spirit, but you're going to have to be strong physically to have authority physically, or intelligent enough to navigate technology. Okay. We also have the Knight of Pentacles. This is a long-term change in the guard, but it means it's slow. It's giving more Virgo energy. Okay. It's a slow thing. It's a slow going. Money is slow. The rebuilding of things are slow. So if we go into war, the rebuild, the fixing is a lot slower. There's going to be more, things may become more desolate. because we don't have the resources to rebuild immediately. It's going to affect families with the Ten of Cups, and also you will see potential. They're probably going to start talking about cutting welfare. Okay, it's not just child support. When they take child support off, like, it's going to be welfare, but they will put men in jail. So they may not have like welfare that goes, but if you have like, it will become a criminal offense if you are, or children will be seized or something like that. It's going to affect people who have families, two or more like children. Okay, and there are two people here, two adults, so it affects both men and women in family dynamics. We have the Emperor here. Okay, the Emperor is here. So this is something that's held up by the dominant society. Okay. Again, another, the government is in your home. Okay, the government, like you thought that Kamala and them, I don't want you to know the government, the Emperor is in your home. Four wands. They're in your home. Okay, they're in your home. You may see taxes, homeownership, like taxes going up. Even if you think you're wealthy now, that could slow up to where you are then burdened. Okay. The Six of Swords is here. So a lot of people are traveling, and traveling due to potential war with the Knight of Swords. Due to decree laws that are being enacted, you're going to see that the police don't just target Black men. There is a new world order trying to be set up. So if you are against that, you're going to see factions, but you're going to see government control of factions. And there is going to be a newness. Like, this is coming in with Uranus. And mind you, the Knight of Swords is Gemini. We have the Fool card, that's Uranus energy. Okay. And this also could be considered Aquarius. Okay. So we're seeing things come about that are new, especially in terms of resources when it comes to the Ten of Pentacles. Give us more on this. What is new? What is the Fool with the, I don't like this shit. The Fool, see, that's why I said the fake ass readers will have us lost, and us, everyone. And it's not good for anyone. So you have the Fool card with the Ten of Pentacles, and you have the Eight of Swords, and it's literally handcuffs. So you may even see seizures of whole family groups. It's going to feel like some shit from the, maybe this is what has to happen, um, of what we were told about the Holocaust. People trying to move away, but you see a man on a sword coming towards the people trying to move away, and then the, like a surprise with the Fool card in the Ten of Pentacles, and then there's handcuffs. And and I just got a download. How they're going to be able to do this is because they're going to do it with the migrants. So the migrants, the way that they haul up the migrants, you need to pay close attention to the way that the migrants are being deported, and the way that first generation and second generation Americans are being deported, because that will be also utilized for the citizens of America to keep down riots and uprisings. So those centers that those ICE centers and FEMA centers, you need to be careful. Okay. You got the Holy Spirit with the Ace of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune. The Ace of Cups can talk about new emotional energy. You're going to have a period where those who are in power, maybe even Trump, maybe even JD Vance, are going to try to reassure Americans with the Ace of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune and the King of Cups. But the King of Cups, shout out to Astro Queen, can be seen as a manipulative man, emotionally manipulative. because we have the King of Swords coming right after, which could talk about it could talk about the legislative, or a branch of, like you could talk about laws being enacted, but in order to do so, there needs to be this emotional kind of management of the people. Because why would the King of Cups come and then the King of Swords right after? Okay. And then we have the Justice card. Literally the Justice card coming right after that. You can't make this shit up. You cannot, this shit is real time. The Queen of Swords. Okay, so that's going to be the shit. So whatever is happening with this false offer from those who are in power, whatever it causes with this Wheel of Fortune, and is enacted with this King of, like, it's kind of like it's coming in like the King of Cups as a Trojan horse, but the King of Swords is actually behind it, and it brings the justice. This is when the Queen of Swords appears. So this is when women say, or women or people who respect, maybe who see the imbalance and may see relief from the feminine. This is when everyone's like, enough is a fucking enough. Okay, Five of Cups. Five of Cups with that Queen of Swords. And then we have the High Priestess. The Magician. Okay, now. All right, now. I mean, I just spoke on it. And the cards are literally speaking the same thing. Because when you got the High Priestess after the Five of Cups, that is the disappointment to what has happened to our land, what has happened to the world. We have watched children. What is happening in Gaza is happening in the United States. We have seen enough death, loss, tragedy, homelessness. We in People are going underground with the High Priestess to make some changes and make some things rake and shake with the Magician card. And then we have the Hermit. Then we have the Hermit. This is crazy. Another Virgo epithet. This could also be while North Node is in Pisces, South Node is in Virgo, and then, yeah, yeah, for that transit. Or it could be the beginning. That transit, technically, it would be that is the beginning of this. South Node in Virgo. South Node in yeah, makes sense. A lot of Virgo themes, the things that the collective is going through, releasing and being forced to release with that South Node in Virgo. Five of Wands, fighting back. Okay, Five of Wands, the Hermit. Hidden factions, hidden knowledge. And then Ace of Swords. The truth and clarity coming out with the Page of Wands. That's new action. This is also the youth. So a lot of the elders will have to hold a lot of the youth behind the scenes to get them ready mentally, emotionally, spiritually, to then be able to take position to actually fight with the Page of Wands, to be serious about their future and to take back control in order to rebuild, and not take back control, but to learn how to levy their power to then create balance, hopefully in society. Yeah, Three of Cups coming right after. Now, this is the only Three of Cups card where I see three hands actually together to work together emotionally and of different colors, purple, blue, and red. So people of different backgrounds, different political systems, all of that actually are coming in to be worked together with the Seven of Pentacles, because we got to do something different. The Seven of Pentacles can denote that the seeds that we're planting are not yielding the things that we hope they did through all the hard work, but then it gives us the opportunity to see how we plant those seeds, the elements of us planting them, and to change things up to get a better yield. Okay. So that's happening with the Page of Cups, a message of peace. And then the Chariot, then victory. But it's not a victory that's solely for women or victory solely for men. It's for both with the Star card. With the Star card. This is healing on a global collective scale. At this point, we would truly be entering into the age of Aquarius. Now, we are the ones to decide if this is going to be over the next 10 years, the next 8 years, the next 4 years, or if this extends to the next 100 years, depending on who we put in power, what we listen to, whose messages we favor, and what shit we believe and stick to, and don't allow for new information to present itself to challenge our beliefs. To challenge our beliefs, not to make us feel stupid, but to challenge our beliefs to increase our abilities to be educated, to be evolved. People, that's what I'm saying. When I'm dealing with people with low IQ, they believe having their beliefs challenged is a bad thing. When they're given the opportunity to enlighten themselves and to either cement their positions by examining what they're being challenged by. That is the true measure of intelligence, is if you're able to take new information and make it make sense or use it to unlock questions that you've had anyway, instead of being offended by it. Being offended by it means that you're not in the business of evolving or having intellect. Okay? So I just wanted to come here and do this. I'm not gonna lie, I took a lot of my time to do it, and that is necessary because I already see the writings on the wall. Now Kamala could come in and end up being president. That still don't change their reading. That actually can make things more devastating. That doesn't change their reading at all. It doesn't change what's going to happen at all, according to their reading. But I have to say, I strongly believe the course of events that Kamala is going to, in fact, be. I'm sorry, not Kamala is, in fact, not going to be the next president of the United States, and it's Donald Trump. I am willing to be wrong. I'm 100% willing, not even in a joking and sarcastic way. I am willing to be wrong because I'm interested in perfecting my craft, not stagnating. Okay. This is your girl Nala-Ife signing off for Nala-Ife Talks Live, unscripted and off the chain. I will talk to you guys here soon. Peace.